think I might have to go back to using headphones. I don't know. If the sound and everything works for y'all, it works for me. I be getting feedback and stuff. It is what it is. Welcome to the BroDiallo broadcasting, straight out of the sanctuary hypocrisy that is the city of Chirac, state of Illinois, in the United States of America. The over-ravaged, soon-to-be depopulated planet Earth in the misnamed Milky Way galaxy. This is, of course, your weekly BroDiallo broadcast where we kick the ballistics. Old school slang, man. It is the dopest shit. Anyway, I'm very happy to be here to talk about some unpleasantness. I mean, black folks, we act brand new, but I don't have much time, and I want to make sure I have time for Q&A and engagement, and I need to get out of here on time. So I'm just going to jump in with both feet. First of all, I want to give myself some congratulations. I want to give myself some props, more old school slang. I want to give myself a shout out because I am and will continue to be the secular prophet. And secular prophecy is when you don't need the ancestors, you don't need gods, you don't need any supernatural force to predict the future and outcome. Secular prophecy can foretell. You don't need the zodiac. You don't even have to look at the alignment of the stars to tell what is going to happen. Secular prophecy simply looks at history, contemporary society, and use that analysis of history and understanding of contemporary modern conditions to project or to determine the trajectory of society. Now, why am I jeffing with myself? Why am I patting myself on the back? Why am I giving myself props and giving myself shout out? Because I've been telling y'all, and some of y'all, I don't know if y'all listening, but some folks been arguing with me. I've been talking about white privilege. And white privilege is a myth. Let me turn the music down. Let me come, because y'all need to hear this. Because some of y'all been arguing with me and fighting with me and going to war. Because I said white privilege is a myth, right? And when I first did a broadcast and I put the fallacy of white privilege and white privilege is a myth, this is funny. I started getting calls from like right-wing bloggers and right-wing reactionaries and the manosphere. And they were like, hey, we got a black man. You know, they only read the headlines. They don't read, they can't read beyond the headline. Many of y'all be sharing shit on social media from right-wing, fascist, reactionary, conservative, white nationalist media because y'all see a headline you like about crime or about women and how women and traditional women and femininity. Y'all be seeing headlines and y'all go and share headlines. And because y'all don't understand, liberation-minded people are anti-government and fascist reactionary Alex Jones right-wing racists are also anti-government. And you'll see a headline that's anti-government, you'll be like, yeah, fuck the government, fuck Biden, and you share it. And I exhaust myself sometimes. I have to remind myself, just let it go. I have to let shit go because I'm constantly telling people, why are you sharing this and you're not sharing the link, or you're just sharing these fucking right-wing reactionary racist anti-black headlines. And I know you're not an Uncle Tom handkerchief head boot licking coon, but you don't read behind the headlines. So anyway, I tricked white folks. This is a couple of years ago. I was getting calls like, hey, you want to come on our show? You want to talk to us, man? Yeah, white privilege and all this woke stuff. And I'm like, I guess I'll come through. You want to interview me? And because they were like, this is a black dude who said that white privilege is a myth. And they thought I'd come on there like some old Uncle Tom, talking about the woke and all that shit. And as soon as I'd be like, yeah, it's not a privilege, it's a pathology. And I'd come with the simple line, privilege is something you give a well-behaved child, not a genocidal colonizer. It is pathology that allows them to navigate this society, not privilege. And I said, white people who do not exhibit the appropriate pathology do not receive privilege. So it's not their white skin, it is their pathology is a greater determinant on their ability to rise and maintain status in this society than their whiteness. And I gave one example where black folks was running around where they were fallaciously calling the January 6th riot a white example of white privilege. And they were saying, oh, look at these white folks storm the Capitol. And white folks tearing down barricades, and they're running up in congressional offices, and they're beating the shit out of congressional police. And they was like, if white folks was doing that, I mean, if black folks was doing that, they wouldn't let us do that. And then they started giving probation. They started giving 1-2 year sentences for people trying to overthrow the fucking government. And black folks was like, there's white privilege. And I'm like, that's not white privilege. I said, you're looking at the fact that white folks stormed the Capitol, and you're not looking at their motivations. You're not looking at their ideology. You're not looking at the goals and agendas. I said, if those same white people had stormed the Capitol for single-payer health care, if they had stormed the Capitol to reinstitute women's reproductive rights, if they had stormed the Capitol to audit the Pentagon or to open up the Pentagon or reduce the Pentagon budget, if they had stormed the Capitol on behalf of climate change and destroying the Earth's ecosystems, the melting polar ice caps, if those white people had stormed the Capitol for anything other than psychopathic, racist motivations, reasons, and agendas to intensify racism, to expand racism, they would have been mowed down, machine gun, Gatling guns. I said the Pentagon would have threw everything at them that they had. And I said the only reason. And so I said white folks, and I couldn't tell because black people were like, white privilege is real. You don't understand. White privilege is real. White privilege is real. White privilege is real. And so I say, now you're looking at all these affluent white kids in campuses all over America, simply peacefully protesting. When them crackers ran up in January 6th, they ran up in the White House. They didn't stand in the yard. They didn't stand outside. They didn't pitch tents outside. They kicked in the door, waving the 4-4. They came in there smearing feces and urine all over the place. Feces and urine. And this is New York Post. This ain't no rag that's gonna lie on white folks, right? Y'all don't hear me though. Let me show y'all this. They ran up in there. Rioters left feces, urine in hallways, offices, mobbing the U.S. Capitol. They were, and I don't mean like squatting on the floor. Like those white folks were like running up in there and like, I'm rioting for America. I'm rioting for Jesus. I'm rioting for Trump. And I gotta drop a deuce. No, they weren't simply squatting in the corners or pissing in the hall. They were defecating, gathering up their feces and the feces of their other patriots and going on pictures like the paintings and smearing it on the paintings. They were climbing up on the balconies and pissing down. Right? And only one woman got shot. And that was a black guard that shot that one white woman. One woman. And this is an overthrow of the government. And I'm like, let them have a fucking government before. And so when they was doing this shit, right? Black folks were like, look at all that white privilege. But now we see white folks on campuses across America. They're not fighting to install a fascist dictator. They're not fighting to preserve billionaire tax cuts. They're not fighting to continue to pollute and destroy the Earth's ecosystem. They're not fighting to exclude Muslims or other so-called minorities or undesirable brown and black people from the country. They're not fighting for something reactionary, unjust, racist, xenophobic, theocratic. They're not fighting to bring Jesus back to the school. They're not fighting to deny women reproductive rights and autonomy. They're fighting to call for an end to a genocide. And they're not even calling for an end to the genocide, because the only way to end the genocide is to end Zionism. They're not calling for an end to Zionism. They're literally calling, I don't think they understand this, but they're calling for a re-implementation of the slow genocide. They're calling for a re-implementation. They're not calling for a dismantling of the nation of Israel. They're not calling for a one-state solution. They're calling for a ceasefire. They're calling for a withdrawal from Gaza and the West Bank. What they're calling for is say, hey, go back to the status quo of slow genocide, right? As opposed to this intensified genocide. Because it makes me uncomfortable. I can't enjoy my Starbucks with an intensified genocide. Go back to the genocidal status quo. And they're getting the shit kicked out of them. Their blood is getting running on the concrete. Professors are being dragged. Where's their white privilege? It's not privilege. Every time in this country, white people, I don't care if it's labor rights, I don't care if it's animal rights, children's rights, whenever these white folks en masse organize or rally for anything that can be defined as just, the state and institutions of power stomp on their throats. There is no such thing in this country as white privilege. It is white. The white part, y'all got it. Y'all got it. It is white. Because even black conservatives, let me tell you something, black conservatives, a lot of you black Uncle Tom, handkerchief head, boot licking coons. There's no such thing. You cannot, it's the transferative property. So don't think because, well, I want to take away women's right to produce. You know, I'm a evangelical, delusional evangelical theocrat. I want to reduce taxes on the rich. I'm for locking people up. I'm for imperialism and expanding U.S. military and empire. Just because you black, don't you run up in the Capitol either. You saw that one dude, that Latino dude, he got 22 years. He got more time than all the white rioters combined. So don't think you can get, I'm telling you, it's white, the part that's white. So I'm just saying, look at these white folks, white kids, their own goddamn children, the children of the white elites getting beat down. Their whiteness will not protect them if they're taking a stand for justice, if they're taking a stand against imperialism, genocide, militarism, capitalism. Their whiteness will not protect them. So I predicted, I said, all y'all out here talking about white privilege every time a white man gets away with something. Trump can get away with his predation, his sexual predation, and his financial crimes. Right? And y'all forget, y'all, this is what Trump, Bill Clinton did it too. The Clinton Foundation is as dirty as the Trump Foundation. And I would argue, I haven't looked into it, but I'm just going to go ahead and roll the dice and say the Obamas and the Obama Center, the $1 billion laundered through setting up that Obama Center over there in Hyde Park. Monstrosity is dirty as fuck too. But I digress. All I'm saying is the secular prophecy has been fulfilled. Hey, it ain't borrowing. We socialist. It's yours. What mine is yours. What yours is mine, comrade. It's all yours. Run with it. Anyway, well, let's go on. I'm just saying. I love to say. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna come with that old righteous. I love to say I told y'all so. I love to say I told y'all so. Ain't no such thing as a Superman. White folks doing right. Anyway, what we're here to talk about. Survival of the Sickest. Oh, somebody, I got some books here I want to reference. Now I got this here book. You can't get this. You can't. Now this book right here, Civil War II, the coming up breakup of America, because Civil War was the #1 movie in America. And this book you can only get at like gun shows or at like, you know, evangelical conventions. Like you got to be around some real dangerous racist white folks to get this kind of book. This sits on the tables next to the Turner Diaries and Gatling guns and shit. So I had heard, it was a time, I got this book way back in the 90s. And there was a time where I would go to gun shows. I was going to gun shows because I used to be a member of a cult. I used to be a member of the cult. And I should tell you the story of a cult. Because, you know, everything I talk about, I get on here and talk about sexist. I talk about homophobes. I talk about cult members. I talk about people steeped in religious delusions. Just about all that shit. I too am one. I one am two. I done been through all that. I've been through all that. So I don't talk from up on the mountain. I'm not down there. I'm not Moses. I'm not going to come down the mountain and open up the earth to swallow you up for having reactionary views. You know, I go in on the manosphere. I mock the manosphere. But man, if the manosphere or the internet was around in 93, 94, 95, I'd have been in it. I told y'all I was Umaring before Dr. Fubar was Umar. So I speak. So I was even in a cult. So there was a time where I was in this revolution. It was a secular cult. It was a secular cult, or even a cult of personality. But we were in preparing for armed insurgency, martyrdom. So I was at gun shows, right? And I would see these books like the Turner Diaries or the Lone Klansman. And I saw this book. And I'm like, all this shit, this white boy fantasy bullshit. Let me just look at the guns and infiltrate, get the fuck out of here. But then I heard an interview. This guy Chittum, I think, did he have a picture in here? It's been a while since I read this. He had a picture. I mean, a square jaw white boy. Oh, these old square jaw. You know, the guy that's like, I have a very specific set of skills. He's like the white dude from Taken. I was like, this is just another one of those crazy ass white boy fantasy books. But then I found out this dude was a risk assessment. He did it for the military and private industry. And he would basically go around countries and observe the government, observe the society, observe the business, the elites, the working class, and all these various sectors of society. And he would make evaluations about the stability of that country, how vulnerable they were to invasion, how vulnerable they were from internal disruption, how vulnerable they were from ecological, volcano, tsunami, and what this country could withstand. Just how resilient is this nation internally and from internal and external disruptions. And then he would create these reports, these risk assessment reports, and for the Pentagon or for a corporation that was looking to invest, to go mine, to go rape and steal the resources, to set up a maquiladora or some other type of exploitive industry. And I'm like, wow, this dude knows his shit. He sounds mad articulate. He's mad articulate. And so he's the first one, because I was listening to, you know, this is when I was reading Behold a Pale Horse and Conspirators Hierarchy. And I was living and coming and traveling between New York and the Midwest. So I was all up in Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee. I was through. I was going. And so when I'd be driving, I'd listen to AM right-wing radio. And they'd have religious stations and politics. And this is conspiratorial politics. I was collecting intelligence because I was a member of this Black militant revolutionary cult that was preparing and training for an insurgency, armed uprising, right? So anyway, I heard an interview. I'm like, God damn, that's that guy that wrote that book. So the next time I went to a gun show, I bought this fucking book, right? And so anyway, someone was telling me about this story, right? More secular prophecy coming up. You know, we do church on Mondays. Okay, let me see. Y'all heard about St. George, right? Louisiana. And they just won this court battle. And Louisiana is up in arms, right? So let me, where that at? I ain't gonna be sharing too much. I hate playing with this computer. I just prefer to hear to build. Oh, they paywall? You some bitch. Oh, I need another one. Let me just show y'all this and then take y'all back to this book that's well over 20 years old. They want a paywall shit. There's New York Times. Fuck that. Okay. I hope they won't paywall me because I don't pay for shit. Socialist. Oh, hold on. Let me just show y'all this and then I'll show y'all a book that predicted it. Okay, Daily Mail is as good as any of them. So, wealthy white Louisiana residents win right to form their own city and split from poor black neighbors in landmark court battle after 10 years, right? So they're gonna like Baton Rouge. We gonna take away our tax dollars, and we're going to basically leave all the poor black. And this is happening all over the country, but for some reason this is mainstream. But this is actually happening from coast to coast, or being attempted. So anyway, the wealthy white folks are like, we don't want nothing from y'all colored folks, right? And we're gonna create our own city, have our own mayor, have our own city council, have our own school district, and have our own water, have our own goddamn police. And it's basically they're creating what is called a racial or class enclave, right? And then you look at a place like Florida, where Jeff Bezos is relocating from, I think he was in San Francisco, then he moved to DC to lobby because Jeff Bezos is a welfare whore, and Amazon wouldn't exist if it wasn't for government handouts, just like Tesla, and every billionaire is a welfare queen. And so he's leaving from DC, and then all the big New York City billionaires are leaving places, like the tech billionaires are leaving Silicon Valley and California, and the financial and industrial moguls and barons are leaving New York, and they're all moving to Florida. And then there are other billionaires who are setting up bunkers all over the place, and y'all keep sharing this information about all these bunkers. Y'all spook like, what does Mark Zuckerberg know? He don't know a motherfucking thing, but I get it, right? So they're creating these things, and I see this in this book from 1996. Has a whole chapter on what he called ethnic enclaves. Are they fortresses or death traps? Now he believes they're fortresses, and he goes on to talk about the various ethnic enclaves across America, where white people have basically set up. They either have done it legally or economically or culturally. And most of us think, when we think, if you follow this kind of shit, they're up in the Northeast, in the Dakotas. They're up in areas where you ain't never met a black dude from the Dakotas, and watch all the black people from Dakota come in the comments. Every time I say something, people like to jump in the comments and shoot me down. But you ain't never met a black person from the Dakotas, and where they go up and create, or even rural Oklahoma, rural Missouri, rural Kansas, rural flyover America, and we all know Appalachia. And he's basically informing white people the best areas in the country to set up their enclaves, what resources they need to be next to a water source. They need to make sure even the tectonics is straight. You know, you're not on a fault line that is defensible from incursion. The established infrastructure they need to build up, and the infrastructure they need to remove. And so he talks about the ethnic enclaves, and ultimately he's telling white folks to abandon and flee the South and head to the North. And because the southern areas, the old antebellum South, Dixieland, is going to be black. California and all that's going to be reclaimed by Mexico, Hispanics and the whites. And he just basically gives a lot of detail about where the blacks are going to take over. Now, it's not accurate, but I mean, he just hits so many marks where he talks about the black, and I wish some of this shit was true, because he really overestimates black people. Like, he's scared to death of black people. Oh, here it is. It's called Civil War II, The Coming Breakup of America by Thomas W. Chittum. And you can get, I don't know if this is around anymore, but like I said, I got this shit at a gun show. I got this shit at a fucking gun show. Like I said, this book sat on the table. There was this book, The Lone Klansman, and of course, the Turner Diaries we all know about, Conspirators Hierarchy and the Committee of 300, The Unseen Hand. You know, there's a whole, at the time in the 90s, there was a whole black books movement. There was also a right-wing reactionary racist books movement. And, but I know, I've heard at least that, because I don't buy books from Amazon. I try not to buy shit from Amazon. But Amazon has, after George Floyd, and the various right-wing white mass shooters and the great replacement mass shooters and incel mass shooters, they started purging a lot of these type of books from Amazon. But yes, this is a racist book written by a racist. But one thing you'll notice, when racists are believe they are writing something or communicating with other races, it's quite different when they're talking to everyone. It's quite different. And this is basically a book for white Christian heterosexual patriots, to not necessarily, because he believes that the war is not going to be sparked by whites. He believes that blacks and Hispanics and white liberals are going to make the situation unlivable. And he even believes that they will take the first shot and they will be the ones to provoke the first civil war. But like I said, because of his formal education and because of his career, he's applying, you take white psychopathology and but technical skills of assessment and critical assessment of conditions. And this is a very interesting book. But there's so much in this book from 1996 that if you just read tomorrow's newspaper, it's like, wow. And so someone was telling me, my people in Louisiana talking to me about, damn, they fucking breaking up and they done kicked all the black folks out of they used Hurricane Katrina to basically reclaim territory they feel they lost against black folks. And I'm living in aggressively gentrifying area. Like I said, the neighborhood, I've been here less than 10 years. It'll be 10 years. I've been in this neighborhood on the south side of Chicago, Bronzeville, for damn, I think 10 years. God damn, I'm aging. God damn you, time. But anyway, when I first moved here and we were just looking to see where we wanted to live, we was renting. And the dude we was renting from that owned the building, he was an ex-NFL player, like this big 6'9" dude. And the high-end properties in this area was like $230,000. That's if you was baller. And like I said, now they throw in 2 blocks from here. I mean, just 1 block from here was a shooting gallery. I don't know what y'all call it now, a trap house, where it was a transient hotel where you could buy hotel rooms by the hour. And there were heroin addicts and prostitutes up and down, just 1 block. And then 1 block beyond that was vacant fields, and now there's $1 million properties right there. They boarded up the shooting gallery or the trap house or the trap transient motel. So this area is rapidly gentrifying. So the things he's talking about, the ethnic clashes, the climate instability, and all that shit. So anyway, and there's this thing that I don't think we talk enough about called elite panic. Elite panic. Elite panic is white elites are very apprehensive, paranoid, and afraid. You cannot look at Mark Zuckerberg and his bunker. You cannot look at Bezos or Sir, the guy over Virgin Music Group. What's that guy? Sir, what's that motherfucker's name? The dude who had Obama in a headlock. Sir Richard Branson. The dude that was choking out Obama. Motherfucker. Man, this is a crazy fucking world, man. How did I end up on this planet of all the fucking planets? This motherfucker choking out fucking Obama, man. Anyway, Richard Branson, and they got these fucking rockets, and they're gonna fly to Mars and establish a moon or Mars colony, or just live on a space station, and they're buying bunkers and they're setting up enclaves all over the place. Let me tell you something. It's not because they have some deep wisdom or knowledge that you don't. That's not why. They see what's coming. They understand the collapse. That's not why. Do not use wealthy elites. Do not use wealth. You're better off looking at ant colonies. You're better off looking at the behavioral patterns of ants. The elites have no deep wisdom or not deep predictors. Their wealth is not based in their ability to comprehend. And I think I'll talk more about that. Don't fucking use them as your barometer. Oh, society's about to collapse, or things are about to be really good. And the goofy shit they do, and the ridiculous shit they spend their money on. So do not follow elite panic. And they don't have the answers. They don't have the answers. So if you see them bunkering up, and your own elites, Farrakhan, man, just came out. I was over here at the pie shop. Every day I go in there, like, what y'all got vegan? They ain't got vegan. I was at the pie shop, and they put in a big poster of Farrakhan. And last Savior's Day, let me see if I can pull this up. And this is the last thing I'm going to pull up. Farrakhan, Savior's Day a couple months ago, told all black people to get 3 months of food stored up. I don't see it. And this poster was all over the south side of Chicago. And he was telling black folks, save up 3 months worth of food. And then I had a sister tell me, and what people telling me, Salam is gone. That restaurant, that y'all gave Farrakhan, man. But I ain't mad at y'all. Y'all gave Farrakhan $1 million to open a dive bar, and they didn't stay open a week. Anyway, all I'm saying is, Farrakhan telling y'all to save. I'm not telling y'all not to save food. I'm not telling y'all. But if you saving food because of Farrakhan told you to, and he's like, oh, it's the coming apocalypse, the Middle East. I'm telling you, don't listen. Listen to me. And the only reason you should listen to me is because I am as impoverished and I struggle as much as you do. And my fate is your fate. I don't have a bunch of kung fu trained fanatics to protect me. I don't have a bunker. I don't have a rocket ship. So whatever I'm going to go through, you're going to go through. So it is my best interest that you keep your head together in times of crisis, and I hold my shit together, because we're going to be elbow and elbow, shoulder to shoulder, face to face in the crisis. So whenever you enter into any unpleasantness, you never go into it with someone who has less at risk than you do, or is more vulnerable or less vulnerable than you. You got to be class conscious. I just had a sister on here last week that was like, I'm buying me a deep freezer and I'm getting a bunch of food. And I'm like, deep freezer? That's not, you need shit that's desiccated. You need shit that's dry. But I digress. And again, I'm talking about these preppers. They used to be called survivalists, and now they're called preppers. And I was into prepperism. I had my canned goods, and I had all my shit stashed at my grandma's house. Like, in my auntie house? I had my shit stashed at my grandma's, because I figured if some shit go down, Y2K, I'm going to go look after my grandmother. So I would go over there and stash my shit at my grandma's house, because I was living in an apartment, and I had some bullets and some canned corn and shit. And I had some reading materials, candles, and I go over there. My grandmother was going through all that shit. Me and her would have been doomed. She'd go down there. She would go grocery shopping. She would go grocery shopping in my survival stash. Shit that's supposed to last us for a decade, 15 years. And before she would go to the hen house where she liked to shop, before she go spend some of her food stamps and social security check on hen house, she would go down in the basement, and there was this cellar, perfect environment for storing dry goods, and she would go shopping on the shelves. And when I went over there to replenish, I think it was like 3-4 years, I went over there to replenish my survival stock. After shit, I'm like, Grandma. She's like, boy, please. The Lord gonna take me on yon. The Lord gonna take me on the glory. For any of this shit, that's for you. And you better get good with God. And how Farrakhan, when it suits him. But anyway, Farrakhan told y'all to get 3 months worth of food on lock. So anyway, what I want to talk about today is Black excellence and the nigga wake-up call. And of course, what got me thinking about Black excellence and the nigga, because we're moving on. All of this shit is intertwined and interrelated, so we never move on. That's why if y'all feel like I'm not on topic and I'm stuck, it's because I realize the intricate web of reality. All things are connected. So y'all can get mad at me for never going to the topic. Oh, and it's 7:04. I'm good on time. But what I want to talk to y'all about, what I want to chop it up with, I brought my sweater up and then I took it on, put it off. What I want to talk to y'all about is survival of the sickest. What do I call this? I called it Black excellence and the nigga wake-up call. And then a subtitle of the subtitle is survival of the sickest. And what got me thinking about this and wanting to point some things out to the community, to the hood, Black excellence in the survival of the sickest. And then it's a nigga wake-up call. And I know, Kwabena, if you're watching, the Clear the Airways Project, support the Clear the Airways Project. They're doing the work on behalf of our youth here in Chicago and across the culture. I'm sorry for using the N-word, but if you don't like me using the N-word, you better holler at Paul Mooney. Okay, I'll call it the Negro wake-up call. But the Negro wake-up call is basically when a Black person, due to their wealth, their education, their popularity within the mainstream, their talents, believes that they have paid the racism ransom. I always say that Black wealth is a ransom that Black elites pay in order to avoid or rise above the ravages of living in a racist society. So you have Black people, and we all got them in our family, who really believe that they have surpassed the limitation, or now they say broken family curses, and that they no longer are vulnerable to the whims of white folks because either they have too much money, they've done too much meritorious manumission, which is what Dr. Claude Anderson called it. They've been meritoriously manumized, and they believe that they are exempt from the ravages of racism. And then some go beyond that and say, no, not only am I exempt from the ravages of racism, I can enjoy my own particular version of so-called privilege, and I can do shit that the white boys do, and I will get away with it. So when a Black person of immense talent, immense wealth, or high stature or status, OJ, Michael Jackson, is brought down or afflicted with maltreatment or lose all that they have all on their own without any of our Black folks' help, achieve for themselves, I say it's a Negro wake-up call. And it's not injustice, because if a Black person is going about their life functioning in a way that does not harm or diminish or exploit other people, if a Black person is achieving and succeeding in such a way that does not compound the oppression and abuse of another person, then when they are afflicted by the system, then that's simple injustice. They are a victim of injustice. A good example of that is the late greatest Muhammad Ali. So Muhammad Ali was at the pinnacle, wealthy, handsome, pretty, immensely talented, champion, and he had it stripped away. He didn't get a wake-up call because throughout all of that, Ali was always conscious of racism. He spoke out against racism and he expressed solidarity with other victims of racism. So if you conscious, acknowledge, and have solidarity and you fall off, not only are you not receiving a wake-up call because you never went to sleep, you are worthy of the support and solidarity of African people when the system targets you, when and if, inevitable. But individuals such as P. Diddy, or let me say somebody more recent, young Thugger. Remember, Thug was being interviewed and they asked Thug about racism and injustice and George Floyd and Michael Brown. Hands up, don't shoot, Black Lives Matter. They said, what are your thoughts on that? And he said, I'm going to leave that shit in his mumbling style. He said, leave that shit for the courts. Leave that shit for the politicians. We over here getting money. We over here getting jewelry. We over here iced out. So that's a dude who was long overdue for a wake-up call. You can only get a wake-up call if you're slumbering, if you're sleeping, if you're slipping. You do not get a wake-up call. So it is not universal. And a lot of times we call a wake-up call when it's not a true wake-up call. Kaepernick was not a wake-up call. Kaepernick acknowledged he wasn't asleep. He acknowledged him losing the NFL, losing and all that. That's not a wake-up call. We got to be specific. These terms matter. This is a sick system that we're going to talk about. And the worst thing you can do when you have an illness or you encounter an illness is misdiagnosis. Misdiagnosis is often as dangerous or more dangerous than the pathology you're trying to evaluate. So Diddy got his wake-up call. But what's very curious to me, O.J. Simpson got a wake-up call. What's all? Kanye West then got multiple calls. Kanye West's phone ringing off the hook. He's getting a Negro wake up call, Negro wake up tell. That dude is getting Negro wake up carrier pigeons. But one thing, I just gonna say this again before I go on. The one thing about a wake up call is that anyone that is receiving a wake up call is not worthy of our solidarity support. And I know y'all love to talk about principality. We just gotta race. Wrong is wrong. No, wrong ain't wrong. When wrong happens to the bad, to sellouts, it's right. We should celebrate the downfall of traitors. We should celebrate the downfall of traitors. We do not incentivize loyalty. We do not incentivize solidarity. We do not incentivize unity because we show and we'll march and we'll cry. Y'all was in the streets. Shame on y'all in Philly marching for Meek Mill. Free Meek, free Meek, free Meek. Let Meek Mill's billionaire benefactors scream free Meek. And the day after Meek Mill got out of jail, he went on some talk show and sat there on a leather couch smugly and talked about he don't give nothing to nobody. He don't owe nobody nothing. I'm a dream chaser. I got this money and I ain't trying to give nobody nothing. When people were in the streets for me, facing tear gas and billy clubs for me, because I'm not saying Meek didn't suffer an injustice. I'm not saying Meek was not a victim of injustice, but that's universal. There's not an African sucking air on this planet who's not currently subjected to injustice. But I tell you every time, there's a difference between a victim and a vector. Both the victim is afflicted and the vector is inflicted. A victim seeks to heal from their affliction, whereas a vector seeks to spread their affliction. Charlemagne the God, R. Kelly, both victims of childhood trauma, of being touched, instead of healing, instead of correcting, they seek to engage in the very behavior that was inflicted upon them. That is a vector. That is a vector, not a victim. And I know this is unpleasant because y'all got a big heart. Like, remember R. Kelly told what's Gail, I need help. What do you need help with, kid? I need help without not having such a big heart. Y'all need help without, you got to be cold, distant, calculating, strategic. When it comes to liberation, you're going to have to make some unpleasant decisions. Don't come at me with that old righteous. So, anyway, I want to talk about P. Diddy, the most fantastical fall from grace in recent history since Cosby or Michael Jackson. Dude, I remember all the shit y'all said the day before he got in trouble. I remember all the fights. I've been hating on Cosby. I've been hating on Cosby since the 90s. I've been hating on Cosby since I read George Jackson. I've been hating on A Different World. I've been hating on it. And everybody was just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? People were literally like, Diallo, something is wrong with you. This show is positive. This show's motivated. I remember I was sitting in a room. I was at the Cowrie Shell Center. Go to Cowrie Shell Center and support Sister Yendez. And she used to open up her space after business hours where she would do hair and sell her homemade elixirs, shea butter, lemongrass, scented shit everywhere. Wonderful place. Shout out to Yendez. I'm in there. And I'm in Brooklyn in this early 2000s. And I'm in there and we're having a vegan food demo or something. Vegan food demo demonstration. And anyway, these well-to-do Wall Street, and they worked in the advertising business, and they worked in sales and Wall Street. These are affluent, upwardly mobile black folks, educated. They come in there and they were like, why are you attacking A Different World? That in Spain, they were giving me stats about enrollment in HBCUs, giving me all this positive shit about and so I just telling y'all, this is literally 2000, 2001. So I've been going head up against Cosby and the Cosby multiverse, the Cosnerati, which is a real thing. Don't make me pull up the Cosnerati on y'all. That rap group, the secret society, the Cosby. I ain't talking about the Boule. I'm talking about the Cosnerati, the rap group that in a state of emergency. And he, Bill Cosby, produced a rap album. And the state of emergency was not white aggression, white imperialism, racism. The state of emergency was sagging pants and profane language of colored folks. That we, just like that guy in that Civil War book, that we were provoking the state of emergency. But I digress. I'm just saying, my hateration goes way back. And I don't fucking forget the love, support, and platitudes. How y'all hashtag goes these motherfuckers. I don't forget. Y'all, everybody's scurrying away from P. Diddy now. Everybody's was so woke and so conscious. P. Diddy, since as long, I remember way back, early 90s, when Biggie was still rapping on Fulton, before he went worldwide. You know, way back when he had the red and black lumberjacks with the hat to match. And y'all were looking up to, admiring, y'all wanted to, and y'all who couldn't go to P. Diddy's parties, I remember all over the hood, broke, struggling, working class black people having white linen parties, white satin, white silk parties. Y'all who couldn't go to the Hamptons to party with Diddy would have mimic parties. Y'all would start having wedding receptions. I couldn't go to a party that didn't have a theme. And you know, when I was out clubbing like that, I had one pair of Air Maxes and one pair of Jabro jeans. And I had like half a dozen nice, fresh, crispy shirts And I've had on the same pair of Jabot jeans and the same pair of Air Maxes that I only wear out at night because they was nice, expensive shoes. But if I wear them to the club, people really didn't notice the scuffs and that they was worn out. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, every goddamn party had a dress code and some theme to it. And y'all was mimicking Diddy. And now tell me I'm lying. Old heads, tell me I'm lying. Y'all was being flat, shiny suits and shit. Y'all and Diddy would come out and like, I'm gonna do this love move. And then Diddy and Jay-Z and all these fucking scumbags, y'all were not only admiring them and aspiring to be like them, y'all all assigned yourselves to be voluntary PR agents for these motherfuckers. And anybody that level criticisms against these motherfuckers, y'all would come online and defend them. Y'all would come online and argue with me. Y'all telling me, y'all running down their press releases about tuition or food or schools, LeBron James school. How many of y'all, raise your hand, how many of y'all went off on me because I was criticizing and mocking LeBron James' shitty ass school? How many people on the south side of Chicago got on me when I was going after both Common and Kanye? Two Chicago legends, no doubt, and their various charitable organizations around this city, when they could have been putting money, real resources into real street level organizers and activists. They were going on doing vanity projects, and then the whole hood was getting behind these vanity projects while real street level activists toiled away in obscurity here in Chicago. I have a pretty decent memory. It's fading, but it's still good enough to for hateration. And so it's real curious to me how quick y'all turn on these people. And y'all always pretend like y'all were so progressive, so forward thinking, so critical, so ready to denounce, to criticize. But he didn't have all this influence and power because everybody would distrust and hated him. Y'all running to paying $1,400 for some goddamn Beyonce dance. Overproduced herky-jerky shows. So all I'm saying is, and then some of y'all act surprised, oh Lord, oh goodness. So everybody's hashtags, y'all was talking about slutty vegan. I couldn't go nowhere. For a lot of my people, I'm the only vegan they know. And I know they be out there using my name. Oh no, I got a homie who's a vegan. For a lot of folks, I'm the only vegan they know. So whenever they see something vegan or hear about something vegan, they all run tell me, and they all come tell me the same shit. You had slutty vegan, you had slutty vegan, they had slutty vegan. And that one dude from the Locks, he had a juice bar, and everybody's like, you been to the juice bar, been to the juice bar? And so I'm like, I haven't been to slutty vegan. And I finally went, and shit was terrible. And listen, I'm not a snob. I am probably the scumbag vegan. So she's slutty vegan, I'm scumbag. I'm not into, oh, I don't eat soy. You uppity up the nose, I don't eat soy. I don't eat hybridized food. I ain't like that. I ain't with that. You can forget that. I just don't get down like that. All right. So I'm not a vegan snob. But the shit was overpriced and was terribly prepared, terribly presented. But then she goes out here and gets in bed with venture capitalists. She goes out here and gets in bed with low quality labor practices, exploitation of the workers. Little Nas X, y'all thought he was this counterculture hero, this queer hero. And he told y'all, I used to hate capitalism until I became a millionaire, and fuck you peons. Every time somebody gets rich, they should automatically lose whatever standing or stature they have in the black community. And people accusing me of hating wealth and wanting all black people to be poor. They're half right. They're half right. One of the biggest drivers of poverty is the concentration of wealth. So you can say, I don't like rich people. I hate on rich people, which is true, but I don't want people to be poor. You motherfuckers who celebrate Floyd Mayweather, Money Mayweather, who look up and say, oh, Tyler Perry's doing it big. You are the ones who are pro-poverty. Because as I will say, if you look across history, look across society, look across economies, what determines the intensity of poverty is not the absence or presence of resources. What's a greater predictor of poverty is whether or not whatever resources are available in the society, whether they are justly distributed. And concentrating wealth in the hands of a few at the top is the greatest engine of poverty than anything else, than lack of fertile soil, than lack of gold or bauxite. What will determine the poverty of a society is the concentration of wealth. So you who celebrate wealth, you who aspire to wealth, are the true champions of poverty. You are the ones who want people to be poor. If you want to amass fiat up unto yourself and break your generational curse, then you are the engine. You seek to become a class trader, a race trader, and an engine of poverty. And it takes some very specific characteristics. Do you ever find yourself wondering why all these people we look up to and admire eventually have what is called a fall from grace? Some people are out there right now talking about bringing down a black man. They say whenever a black man gets some money, all of a sudden he starts coming up on charges and rumors and accusations go about. Think about it. I remember in my era, it was the three Michaels: Michael Jordan, Mike Tyson, and Michael Jackson. And there was all these, there weren't any memes. Social media was not a thing at this time, but they had Michael Jordan, father died, and they was bringing him up on gambling and other improprieties. Tyson caught a rape charge, and he lost his wealth through investments and exploitation, and Don King robbed him bad. And of course, Michael Jackson's infamous child molestation charges, sicko, jacko. So they were all being hit for, and people were like, every time a black man gets to the top, every time a black man, they bringing down black men, they're targeting black men. And these leaders from Farrakhan, you notice, whenever a prominent black person who wants nothing, and I tell you, like Del Jones said, I don't like talking about Michael because I just get exhausted with y'all reaction. Del Jones said Michael Jackson hates you. Del Jones wrote in his book, Culture Bandits Volume 2, and a little bit more in Sex Prisoners, Culture Bandits Volume 3, about Michael Jackson extensively, where he reviewed Michael Jackson's videos, the symbology in Michael Jackson's videos, and the tone and context of Michael Jackson's music and art in presentation to the world, and how Michael Jackson saw us as black people and how Michael Jackson represented us as black people to the world. And he said, Michael Jackson hates you. He hates your guts. He said he had to pick of any black woman in the world, and he chose to crawl under the armpit of Elizabeth Taylor. Michael Jackson has shown disdain for us, and he also insults our intelligence, where he sits on camera and said, I only had one nose job. I had no other procedures. My skin lightening, it's just, a minor case of vitiligo. And sit and lie to us and wanted nothing to do with us. Michael Jackson, he did We Are the World. He took that he was the head of We Are the World and USA for Africa and sending money, and not a dime of that relief got to the starving masses in Ethiopia. But y'all don't want to hear about Mikey. Y'all love Michael Jackson. And Michael Jackson was like, I don't want nothing that looked like me anywhere near me. To the extent that he had these 3 test tube babies. And then he told his mama before he died, I'm going to put all the money and the kids and you're going to look out for that. And then she thought she was going to have access and control. And turns out it was more white people. But the moment he got in trouble, once they were like, oh, he's a PDF file and he squandered his money and he's a bad investment and all that. Next thing you know, he's standing up there calling Ptolemy Mottola a white devil. He's using, and he's standing there with the fruit of Islam, providing him with security. And Al Sharpton standing there holding his hand up, and in one hand he's holding hand, standing hand in hand with Al Sharpton. On the other side, he's standing hand in hand with Dick Gregory. And we fell for it, like Michael Jackson, love, he's one of us. And he sat across from Oprah and was like, I'm a proud black man. And I have a fairy tale fantasy land to attract children because I never had a childhood. Guess what? If you ain't never had a childhood, you ain't never getting no goddamn childhood. And it's real curious to me. Did the other Jackson boys have a childhood? Because they were touring right there, backing him up. I'm gonna regain I never had a childhood. Listen, building Disneyland in your backyard ain't a supplement or a replacement or a recapturing of child. But y'all fell for it. Y'all fall for it because he can sing real good. I swear, if I could sing, man, the Lord knew, or the ancestors knew what they were doing. They were like, we can't let this dude know how to sing. We can't let him rap, and we can't let him chase balls. We'll give him the height, but we ain't gonna let him chase balls too well. Because he's going to be a mess. Man, if I could hypnotize y'all with dancing, singing, and ball chasing. I didn't ask about their age. I asked James if they had a childhood. Was their childhood that different than Mikey's? And Janet was on stage. Why ain't she got a Disneyland in her backyard? And it's mad people who were famous as children that didn't have a childhood. But I digress. Let me, somebody asked Charlie Murphy, who knew everybody's dirt in Hollywood. Because Charlie Murphy was like a low-key presence. And he was everywhere from going back to the 70s. And somebody asked Charlie Murphy, did Michael Jackson do all that shit? What's up with Michael Jackson? And Charlie Murphy responded to this guy. He said, if pussy was illegal, how long before you go to jail? Compulsion. But I digress. What are we talking about here? Oh, we're talking about the sickness of wealthy people. Wealthy people in general and black people in particular. And my advocacy that black people develop a class consciousness that is on par and as strong and as deeply rooted in our community and culture as our racial consciousness. As conscious you are of racism and racist aggression and our vulnerability to racist, you need to be equally as conscious as in the arena of class and class consciousness. Because anybody that accumulates wealth in this society is automatically becomes someone of great suspicion. I have to ask you something, and I want y'all to answer this later. But this is something, as we talk, this is something you can dwell on right now. And then we'll bring it up later if you want to. And the question is there anything a white person can get from black people? Listen very closely. Is there anything a white person can receive from black people that will increase their status and standing amongst whites? Is there anything black people, as a community, as a culture, as a race, can bestow amongst a white person, a white individual, to increase their status amongst the white masses? And then I'll ask, what black person, or what is it that a black person can gain in abundance to increase their status amongst blacks that is totally independent of white people? Real talk. You figure that out. You got oppression and liberation figured out halfway there. And knowing's half the battle. I learned that from G.I. Joe. But let me say this. This society, I should stick to my notes, man. I do so much preparation and work on these shows, and then I just throw the shit. Because I'm a rebel. I rebel against everything. I rebel against myself. I'm a fucking born rebel. But I'm going to get back to This society is pathogenic, as Amos Wilson taught us. And it's pathogenic literally and figuratively. The way this society is structured, the physical environment, the mental, psychological environment, this society is pathogenic, meaning that if you live your life according to the rules, the laws, the status, the mores, and values of this society, you will literally begin to develop a myriad of physical and psychological ailments and dysfunctions. I got these gnats here from the plants. You have to forgive me if they like to mess with me. So if you eat a standard American diet, you rapidly expose yourself to heart disease, cardiovascular disease, cerebrovascular disease, rheumatoid arthritis, type 2 diabetes, and the list goes on and on and on. If you live your life and function, you will have deep-seated delusions. If you're a Christian, a patriot, a member of the active and enthusiastic member of the Democratic Republican Party, one who seeks to achieve and elevate within the society, climb the ladder to success, achieve the American dream. If you do those things, you would, like I said, everything from narcissism to alienation to self-hatred to xenophobia. If you simply follow the fucking rules of American society, and if you do nothing more, then you are on a fast train to degeneracy. This is a pathogenic society. And even if you, as I do, and as I hope you're doing, you're not eating a standard American diet, you don't consume American media without any type of locks and barriers, you are a critical thinker, you do not embrace or support the status quo, or even better, you consciously and deliberately organize to subvert the status quo in order to be healthy. So you navigate this society while not embracing or being engulfed by the society. You will allow yourself to remain afloat and functional. You have genuine connections with other people in this society, but you understand that you do not have the privilege. Y'all love that word, so I'll work it in when I can. You do not have the privilege of just living and dwelling and getting by or pursuing your dreams and goals. You have an obligation, a generational obligation to your ancestors and to your descendants to organize, struggle, and transform the social relationship of this society and attack and destroy the unjust hierarchies within this society. This is a pathogenic society. It is sick. It is insane. This society was established by psychopaths. It is sustained through psychopathy, and it rewards and produces madness. So anybody that succeeds in this society, even if they ain't got to sing, they ain't got to have an advanced degree in STEM, even if they hit the fucking lottery, your down to earth, around the way auntie who you love, who tells it like it is, if she woke up tomorrow and her lottery and her number hits, immediately she starts to spiral down that road. There should be a established distance and distrust of wealthy or high status people. But instead of having that distance and distrust, we worship and aspire, which is hurting us collectively. I got some things I want to share with y'all. There's some newer books on this, but I don't think they hit as hard as the older books. Where's the other one? I asked my wife for this book, and then I left it downstairs. Jesus Christ. I don't know. I'm just in a visual aid mood. I can't call Erica up here. She don't like when people call. She wants us to walk up and do so, but I can't find it. Anyway, these are some books that talk about everything from the founding fathers. I was just reading today that Andrew Jackson had horse reins Right? We all know about the lampshades that were made from human skin from that they found at Auschwitz. How the camp guards, they were making soap. They were taking the ash. They would burn the body of the Jews, the homosexuals, the disabled, the Negroid. The Jews were not, even though they were the bulk, they were not alone in those gas chambers. Hitler's hit list was long as fuck. It didn't start with the Jews, and it wasn't going to end with the Jews. And what's funny is most people on their hit list, when it wasn't their turn, were pretty much cool with the hit list. And they thought they would be exempt from the hit list. It's a very interesting history, studying the Holocaust, definite article. Even though there's a book, another book, I would say, Late Victorian Holocaust. The Holocaust was not the Holocaust. There are a multitude of Holocausts. But what makes the Holocaust an exceptional in history was it was the first time that industrial scale white aggression was turned in on itself. Industrial scale white aggression had been implemented all over the world, driving races to extinction, reducing numbers by 95%. But those weren't the Holocaust because those people were not white or couldn't be defined as white. What Hitler did, we all know. He looked at Andrew Jackson. He admired Andrew Jackson. And he fantasized and would read fantasy books about the U.S. conquest of the West, the cowboys and the frontiersmen. But I digress. All I'm saying is the founding fathers, Andrew Jackson, the guy on the $20 bill, used human flesh of Native Americans to craft leather goods. And his horse reins were made of Native American flesh. Hitlering before Hitler's grandfather was born, they was Hitlering. Here's another book called The Hitler Virus I have. It talks about all the Hitlers throughout history, how Hitler's behavior was not new or unique to Hitler. There were people with that same mentality, but they didn't have the scope and the technology of the past. I think people are accurately calling Netanyahu a new Hitler. I don't think that's an exaggeration. But anyway, this book, In Game, Volume 1 by Derrick Jensen, he talks about the death urge of Western culture. He talks about the ingrained psychopathology of white people. Of course, the Iceman's Inheritance. Go watch my review. Prehistoric sources of Western man's racism, sexism, and hyperaggression. Of course, the OG. The OG, triple OG, Marimba Ani, Yurugu. I had the psychopathic racial personality, and my wife gonna be mad at me because she was looking all over for that book. What the hell did I do? Shit. Anyway, I have like a dozen books talking about the fact that white folks are crazy, their culture. Now, I was looking up online and saying psychopaths, and I was looking up data about psychopaths, confirmed psychopaths. And I was like, what race has the highest concentration of psychopaths? And Google was like, how dare you ask that question? You know, Google's woke. Google would never entertain such a thought. So I had to be slick about it. So then I said, okay, I can't ask what race has the highest concentration of psychopaths. And the difference between a psychopath and a sociopath, like a sociopath is not able to function. A sociopath is a person who you look at them and be like, this person's off, right? Sociopath cannot function in society. They're a person, they can't hold jobs, they can't do school. They're generally identified young in life. They're easily identified. You don't need a degree in psychology. You know, and let me just tell brothers, let me holler at you, brothers, sisters. Go refill your wine glasses. Let me holler at you, brothers. Tell you something. Don't marry a psychologist. Number one. I don't think Dr. Mingo's watching. Don't marry a psychologist, and if your wife starts to get ambitious and wants to go and get a doctorate in any other psychology, psychiatry, try to distract her. Send her somewhere else. Man, it's a burden I carry. Anyway, I digress. Back to the topic. Ladies, come on back. You top off your wines. We was just talking about how much we love y'all. But anyway, sociopaths are identified early, and you don't need a degree or any type of thing. It's pretty easy to identify someone struggling with sociopathy. Psychopaths, on the other hand, they are gracious. They are charming. They are appealing. They know how to morph themselves or carry themselves in such a way to enter any space and be a part of it. So, we're not talking about sociopaths and sociopathy. We're talking about the psychopaths, the charming, the sexy, the articulate. They have the capacity to hide and dwell amongst the people. They have capacity to plan long range, whereas if a sociopath sees you in a nice car, he gonna roll up on you and yank you out, carjack you. Whereas a psychopath, he will get you to give your car to him and think you're doing something like the minister, preacher. I gave the minister my car to secure my place in heaven. So they will seduce you. So it's a difference between robbing someone and seducing someone. Where the robber and the seducer seek to deny you of your property through deception, and one will deny you of property through force. But anyway, I think that's clear enough. We ain't got to go that deep. All we have to say is that Bobby E. Wright said the white race in relationship to black people is have behaved as sociopaths, and they have no remorse or guilt through the relentless generations of oppression and dehumanization that they've subjected us to. In fact, the average white person in America believes that the black people are indebted to America, that we owe them reparations for their willingness to bring us out of the dark continent, educate, civilize us, and give us opportunities to chase balls and entertain them in various ways. But I digress. But we have several white and non-white authors. We have everything from archaeologists, social scientists, psychologists, to MDs like Dr. Bobby Wright to say, listen, white folks are people who identify as white, and white folks gave themselves that title. We didn't give ourselves the title of Black, Negro, N-word. We have embraced those titles, but we were Dinka, Wolof, Fulani, Asante. But due to relentless attacks from people who identify as them as white, or people who lost their white status, because whiteness is a revolving door. Some people white, some people not white. There was a time when the Irish wasn't white. It's a time when Arabs were seen as Aryans, and even East Indians were seen as Aryans. So it's an exclusive and fickle club. But I digress. That's a whole nother topic. I'm just saying, I want to know what race has the highest concentration of diagnosed, confirmed psychopaths. And that's not. So I was like, let me try to go around and ask the question a different way. I said, what state in the Union has the highest concentration of psychopaths? And of course, it was Maine. It said the state of Maine has the highest concentration of psychopaths. Right? And I looked at several studies, and they said the state of Maine has the highest concentration of, and it's known, and you also know most corporations, and I'm sure if you know about Maine and its taxation policy, they said Maine has the highest concentration of psychopaths. And then I was like, well, what's the whitest state? The whitest state in America. And Maine is number 2. So Maine has the highest concentration of psychopaths, and Maine is 95.4% white. Vermont has a high concentration of psychopaths, but it's 94.6. So really, it's 0.4 versus 0.6 difference. So Maine, it has the highest concentration of psychopaths, and it has the highest concentration of white folks. And I'm not saying white race. And white folks, how dare you? You're reverse racist. I'm like, listen, white folks, y'all got the power, y'all got the wealth, y'all got the nukes, y'all got the aircraft carriers. If you are not a racist psychopath, y'all are really in a position to fucking prove it. Y'all can prove me wrong tomorrow. I can go to sleep tonight and wake up in the morning like, damn, white folks ain't a racist psychopath. But I digress. Anyway, this is a psychopathic society. And not only does it breed psychopathy, it was established by psychopaths, it rewards psychopathology. Meaning that if you want to succeed, elevate, and have prominent status in this system, it would behoove you that if you are not an actual psychopath, that you begin to behave like a psychopath. There's this book. Again, I don't have this book and I don't intend to buy this book, but I read an excerpt from this book. And it's basically saying that if you have any level of psychopathology, then you are basically have a hand up in this society. The wisdom of psychopaths, what saints, spies, serial killers can teach us about success. And he goes over all of these people who have risen to the heights of height in society, have risen to the heights of height in this society. And a big part of what allowed them to thrive in under capitalism, under Western hegemony, under white hegemony, in Western culture, under colonized, ravaged planet, was the fact that they were born psychopaths. And there's one more book to show you that. Hold on. Let me show y'all. Give me a second. 1 second. And this is the last book I want to show y'all. This one right here, Cows, Pigs, Wars, and Riches, The Riddles of Culture. This is a very, I love this book. I love this book. But what this book talks about is saying, it basically talks about how various cultures evolved and the various values. So we have been so indoctrinated in saying, well, of course, money and how much money you earn, how much strength you have is what is admired and what makes you a prominent person in society. So this is a white hegemonic capitalist society where you can accumulate wealth and status through formal education, through wealth, riches, and money and things. But there were other societies where you became a prominent member of the community by how much you gave away. People would compete on how much they could share, how much of the burden of the society they could carry, how much of a servant. You became the leader by being the greatest servant. So different societies had different forms of value, different means of elevating in prominence and status in the society. You also read like the conquest of the New World, the conquest of New Spain, the conquest of Mexico, where they talked about when the conquistadors and the Portuguese, the Spaniards and the Portuguese encountered these cultures and saw how they were too stupid to understand that gold was valuable. Even the Inuit people during the gold rush of the Yukon would see white men coming to the north to mine the gold of the great white untapped north, these untapped resources. And they would look at them like, why would you risk your life for a shiny rock? We cannot conceptualize or conceive a non-fiat, non-money, non-wealth, non-hierarchical society and system, non-patriarchal society and system. Even when Black folks imagine overthrowing or throwing off the yoke of colonization and oppression of whites, we still conceptualize the same family values and the Lord and Jesus and many of the same psychopathic institutions and relationships that were imposed on us by Europeans, the same standards and limitations, the same definitions of what it means to be a woman and what it means to be a man. We still carry that shit forward, even when white men ain't there. Of course, Carter G. Woodson laid that out, how the white man ain't even got to be there to be there. How many of you have been in a room of all black people and somebody designate themselves either the official overseer or the official spokespersons of white folks? I've been in a room fighting white folks and there wasn't a white person within 10 miles of that room because the black people or other non-white people in there have been so indoctrinated, they were like, we got to bring a little whiteness to it. So anyway, this book is good because it gives you some insight into cultures and societies that were not structured or function like our current society. So anyway, I'm just trying to establish why I say any black person that rises to a position of prominence, I don't care if you're a fucking CEO, an entertainment mogul, a wealthy ball chaser, music mogul, a scientist, y'all keep every fucking year. I got to look at y'all share. Oh, this black kid, this one black girl got all A's, graduated with a 5.0 GPA and got accepted to 500 different universities and got over $5 million in scholarships. This brilliant black girl, and I'm supposed to clap. I don't know this child's ideology. Is she going to be one of the hidden figures sitting in the basement of the Pentagon, helping the white man maintain his military hold on the globe? Is he going to help the white man colonize the stars and take this psychopathic system into the multiverse? So I can't celebrate the achievement of a black person if I don't know their ideology. That's simple as fuck. So when they say every time a black man gets successful, they bring him down. No, it's not every time a black man gets successful, they bring him down. It's every time any black person gets an abundance and concentration of wealth, they begin to deteriorate. Their humanity begins to deteriorate because all wealth under capitalism is nothing more than the extirpation and appropriation of someone else's wealth and resources. Nobody on this planet has done $1 billion or $1 million worth of work. In order to be a multimillionaire or a billionaire, you have to exploit the labor of hundreds of thousands of other people. And you don't even have to see those people. Michael Jordan can make $1 billion off of shoes and never stepped his foot in a goddamn Nike sweatshop. It's not because you're savvy. It's not because you're smart. It's not because you don't sleep like I hate thinking of his name. Every time I think of his name, the dude who said you can't sleep because if you waking up, you need to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go to bed at 3:05 in the morning. You can't sleep. You're unworthy of sleep if you're not rich because somebody's up while you sleep and getting money. Who said that shit? Steve Harvey. Thank you. I'm going to forget his name the next time I have to think about it. Appreciate it. I never remember this motherfucker's name. It's my brain against my mind trying to protect me. So it's not that P. Diddy or Bill Cosby or Barack Hussein Obama, mass murderer, criminal, and y'all sit here and condemn P. Diddy, and then you'll go to a luncheon with Obama when he's got way more blood on his hands and orchestrated way more atrocities than P. Diddy. I'm not saying you should forgive P. Diddy. The argument here is you should shun Obama as aggressively as you shun P. Diddy. And for all these other black moguls, black millionaires, black aspirants, these striving Negro, Uncle Tom sellout race traders, class traders, why wait for the white media to expose them before we just write them off? Or you can come home. If you get the bag as a black person, your mind, your goal should be redistribution. I tell you, if my number hits tomorrow, not that I play, but if I played the numbers and my numbers hit, and y'all weird because WNBA and they talking about the disparities between the WNBA and NBA. And I agree. I don't like the disparities between the WNBA and the NBA. And I think the payment of the NBA should be brought down to the payment. I remember Brittany Griner when she went over as a sellout. She sell out. Brittany Griner is a sellout. The Russian government is homophobic legislation. The Russian government persecutes and prosecutes LGBTQAI. And the LGBTQAI community within Russia said we need a cultural and economic boycott of Russia because of its relentless. The Russian government and the Orthodox Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church, is repressing, and children are suffering, dying, committing suicide, being thrown in the street because of the sanctioned state official stance on homosexuality, transgender, woo, woo, woo. And she was like, I'm going to go over there and get paid. Fuck them. Fuck my people. Fuck the women of Russia. Remember Pussy Riot? Go look up the struggle of women in Russia. She's a woman. She's queer and all that. And she's black. But black people, because a lot of black people follow the reactionary right wing and the authoritarian. So the same people that hated Russia for being communist love it for being authoritarian and right wing reactionary. But I digress. That's too much to get into. She went over there saying if she had been true to herself, she would have been like, I can't accept a contract. All them from Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown to Beyonce before 2023, October 2023, they was love getting that Zionist money, getting Zionist money. But I digress. They knew it. The genocide was going on. And mad artists were over there, just like Will Smith in Dubai, getting Dubai, and it's the modern day sex trafficking and slavery capital of the world is Dubai, and everybody from Will Smith, what's that boy's name, Kevin Hart, everybody dirty. I don't care whether or not they get caught in their dirt; they're all dirt. And I'm not saying you can't listen to their music, you can't dance to their music, you can't watch their movies, you can't. What else they do? Watch them chase balls and even bet and get yourself a few dollars, gamble with your cousins and uncles on who's going to win whatever ball chasing event. All I'm saying is they don't deserve our solidarity as a people, our loyalty, or our admiration. Once the TV is off, once the ball has been chased and dunked or carried into the end zone, when you turn off the TV, turn off any connection you feel you have with these black elites. We need class consciousness, class antagonism, and we need even an internal class war. And the class war was already started by the elites. We just need to go ahead and establish our troops and draw our line in the sand. So all of these men and women, Oprah Winfrey, who become immensely wealthy, the system is not trying to bring them down. The status of wealth, number one, it handpicks the most dysfunctional, maladaptive, toxic, predatory elements from within our community. Talent, from Kaepernick to Craig Hodges to Muhammad Ali, extremely talented athletes, but say, hey, I'm going to stand on principle. Then we'll replace you. So talent will help you. But if you can be a psychopath like Michael Jordan, a predatory, parasitic leech who don't give a fuck about your people and don't stand for nothing but your own enrichment, that's an asset to make it. I'm telling you. So hostility before. And I always say, y'all people who talk about Kanye West, and when Kanye West was promoting Confederate flags and selling Confederate flags and talking about the Confederate flag is my flag, saying slavery was a choice, y'all Negroes were just sitting there enjoying the show. But then soon as the Jews said, oh, no more tours, no more shoe deals, no more deals for you, no more contracts for you, no more international tours for you, you insulted Jewish people. Black people are like, oh, when he was dissing us, y'all didn't do nothing. Let me tell you, we should deal with these people before they even get a chance to. The prominent and elite blacks who disrespect us should be dealt with before they get a chance to disrespect somebody else. There should be no more prominent Negroes that when they run afoul of Jews or gays or the Democratic Party or the American public, the patriots, before a black person can run afoul of any other identified group, if they dissed us, we should have already dealt with them. I don't know why I have to keep saying this. I don't know why I have to keep saying it. I got to talk about egalitarianism. Someone wants me. I'll pick that up on Wednesday because we're at 8:30. I would like to open up for questions, comments, and criticisms. Black excellence needs to be redefined. Black excellence can only be defined as a Black individual, group, organization, community, nation of Black people who engaged in sustained resistance and subversion of capitalism and white hegemony. That is the only form of Black excellence we acknowledge. We don't give a fuck how well you play the stock market. We don't give a fuck about how many housing complexes you own. We don't give a fuck if you're slinging crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot. We don't give a fuck about your Grammys, your Oscars, EGOT. We don't give a fuck about how many commas and zeros are in your bank account. Black excellence can only be defined. Black people engaged in Black excellence and are allowed to be acknowledged and celebrated by us according to how well they present a challenge and subversion to the systems and institutions of global white domination and finance and industrial capitalism. And I ain't saying you can write a song against it, you can write a ballet, you can write a play, you can be an athlete, you can be an academic, you can be a guerrilla in the trenches. I'm not even telling you how to do it. I'm not trying to dictate to how you do it. Legal and extra legal. That should be the only, in any other Black person articulating or expressing Black excellence in any other way. That's not Black excellence. If you're achieving in capitalism, that's white excellence. Black people, you know, when you see a dog, you look at a dog show and you see the dog jumping through the hoops and running through the zigzagging through the things, they get a trophy to the owner. They give the money to the owner. The money goes into the owner's bank account. That's not that dog's achievement. That's the trainer's achievement. That's the trainer's achievement. Are you a domesticated dog? So when you see Black people getting all these awards and getting mad, oh, why Beyonce ain't got a Beyonce got the love of every Black person. All I see is Black people literally worshiping Beyonce. And Jay-Z's complaining because she didn't get album of the year. They don't give a fuck about your love. They chase a white trophy over the love of billions of Black people. A white trophy means more to them. Or the paper, the printed paper with a slave rapist on it means more than the love of a billion Black people. And they shouldn't have our love. Our solidarity is the greatest asset we have. And we give it away, we squander it. But I digress. Questions, comments, criticisms. There's some other things I wanted to get to, but you know, we here. Please like, share, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, what did I do? Tell me what I got to do to come through. You can go to African World Order, get your merch. We got Nicaraguan, Panamanian, Grenadian Revolution. We got some Congo shirts. We got to deal with the Congo. You go and buy one of our Congo shirts, and we send all the proceeds from that to Friends of the Congo and organizations working in the Congo. We got some EYL. We're trying to hit town. We're trying to go to Baltimore. Please share. I need you. You know, that's why I have to stay loyal to Black people. I can't sell out. I am for buying of the people. Anybody else getting money, I'll get money. Anybody else out there making their way, I do as well as we do. So you support me. You got the means to support me. Support me. If you don't, then tell your cousin who do got it. Like, share, subscribe. You can donate. Please support the BroDiallo broadcast if you think this is something of value to the community. We coming to be more. We coming to Baltimore, Baltimore. Earn Your Liberation live in Baltimore. You can go get your tickets on Eventbrite, and we don't want the cost of it to be prohibitive, so you can pay whatever you want. Wait, this is the wrong page. That's not what I'm trying to pull up. Warlande. Where? I hate this screen share. Geeky shit. See, being an alpha male, I should be in the trenches. Where is it? Here it is. You can go here. If you're going to be in Baltimore on the 19th, you can pay as little as $1 and as much as $1 million to come see me, Jared Geechee, live meet and greet. We're going to do a live broadcast there. We're going to meet, greet, Q&A, and mingle, drink some food. So come through. If you can't make it, but you want to support, there's a way for you to support. Where's that link at? And you can just go to any of my socials at Diallo Kenyatta across all socials, and donate, make a donation to help us, because we got to get transportation to Baltimore. We also have to secure equipment. We need cameras and microphones and stuff, and we're well below our fundraising goal. And this is a one-time thing where we can get the mics and the cameras. We also are going to help shore up the Nomu, the location we're going to. So, you know, we're going to help them get facilities so that they can get the resources they need for other events at the cultural. So we have this ambitious fundraiser. So you can kick us down, hook us up. You know, we only $595 at a $4,000 goal. It's very ambitious. We know, love, and appreciation. So you can go to Earn Your Liberation Live in Baltimore. And if this is successful and we reach our goals, we already got set up for Detroit, coming here to Chicago. We're going down to EYL. We're going to take this struggle, this organization, these insights, and across the U.S., city to city, yard to yard. So then in world tour with Muhammad Mame. Okay. So that's out of the way. Now we're going to open up for questions, comments, and criticisms. If I missed your comment, I apologize. You can come live and direct with the BroDiallo show. I share the comments. The link is in the comment if you want to come live. If you have a question, comment, criticism, I'm looking to hear it. Seeing Horn, the most offensive thing about rich race traders like Jay-Z, Beyonce, Michael Jordan, etc., is about how a lot of black people hold these low lives up as their gods. So true. Blasphemy. And it's idolatry. It's idolatry. You know. So I agree. And we shouldn't. I say this. Maybe you got too kind of heart and you don't want to hate them. The best thing you can do is be indifferent. There's a lot of people that are in the public eye that I admire. I'm not saying just because you're in public and known that you should be hated. I'm talking about bona fide people who carry ideas. KD, you live with the BroDiallo show. Question, comment, criticism? KD?
Hello, yes. Last week I had asked you a question about taxes, and sort of related to that topic, I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on modern monetary theory, where basically they're trying to say that taxes do not fund actual government spending for the US, that taxes are just a way of, collecting money, but that doesn't actually get reused in the next year's budget. The US government just creates money, and the money that's taxes kind of just destroyed. So I don't know if you've heard of that modern monetary theory before, but what are your thoughts on it? And I also have another question as well after that.
Well, we live in a fiat system. So yeah, money. Well, taxation is more of a regulatory thing than a necessity, because especially in the United States, and through its military prowess, is able. The U.S. dollar is attached to petrol, and petrol is the world's energy source, and therefore the U.S. has a hand and a stake in most financial transactions and the financial well-being of all other nations in the world. But in terms of modern monetary theory, taxation can be progressive and a good thing. I think that taxation can limit which it has. It's been proven and demonstrated that taxation can limit the accumulation of wealth, not just at the top, the concentration of wealth at the top. It also has been implemented to prevent the passing down of wealth. So taxing inheritance and taxing wealth accumulation, unearned income is a good way to redistribute wealth in the society and stop the concentration of wealth. And if you have a progressive taxation that stops the concentration and transfer of wealth at the top, and then you have commercial and business regulations that forbid and punish monopolies, that's when the United States had the most rapid and sustained economic development from the New Deal. The United States would have a economic upheaval every 5 to 10 years, culminating in what was called the Great Depression. And then when they had everything like the Dodd-Frank Act and these other regulatory, and they broke up the bail system, and so they broke up the major railway monopolies, the communications monopolies, and the large monopoly industries were broken up. You saw that the U.S. middle class was expanded through welfare. And this is for white folks. Black people had a whole different journey, on this. So when you insert black people into this whole story of American middle class and American reform, economic reform, it blows up. But when you're just looking at overall U.S. society, the U.S. economic stability, U.S. economic prosperity, and U.S. Development of a stable middle class, an expanded stable middle class, was a byproduct of taxation, progressive taxation, redistributive budgeting, and regulatory oversight.
Agreed with what you're saying.
Do. And
Just agreeing with what you're saying. So what I had heard was that taxes are a form of kind of establishing a currency, because everybody has to pay the government with those taxes, as well as a mechanism to, I guess, help with income inequality, as you mentioned, like taxing billionaires to not have such inequality in society. But the other part of it I want to ask as well is around modern monetary theories is about all these things come up about, how are we going to pay for these social programs? Like, are we going to have to tax people healthcare or, free housing and stuff like that?
That's a myth.
Yeah, so the answer to that is modern monetary theory is that the government can just print the money for these things. There's no limit. They don't have to tax it. They can just create the money. So also, if you could speak on that. But
they still have to tax it. It's called currency. It has to flow. The problem with money, as long as money is moving in the economy, the problem is money is held and concentrated. Jeff Bezos is sitting on a shit ton of money that is not re-entering the system. Because I get some money, I immediately put it back into services. I put the money right back. The money that comes to me goes right back into the system. The current flows.
Yes, but I'm saying also the government also prints money. Like every year they print billions of dollars, for the deficit and stuff. So
shred billions of dollars.
Yeah.
They also shred billions of dollars.
Yeah, but I'm just saying for those things, it's like, do we even have to talk? I understand the concept of taxing to, help with inequality.
Even if you are printing money, you still have to control where the money goes. The government has the elites have taken over $16 trillion out of the economy and locked it away and hoarded it. Just look at grain. If you grow all this grain and you don't give it to people to eat, and they can't consume it, and they start to starve, then they can't go out and grow more. So if you were locking away all the grain, or if you lock away any resource or allow any one individual to hoard an enormous amount of resources, you're going to disrupt the flow. And if you disrupt the flow, you get stagnation. You start to get collapse and corruption. KD?
Agreed, yes.
So it's not enough to just print money. They also have to determine where the money goes, and they have to prevent the concentration of the money that's printed from accumulating in the hands of a few or in the coffers of a multinational corporation or a hyper rich individual.
Agreed. Yes. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So if anybody's interested, I had read about that more in a book called The Deficit Myth. If you yourself is anybody interested. And then, sorry, I had a second question if you still have
Well, Dick
something.
Cheney told us deficits don't matter. They only use deficits as a justification for denying services to the working class people. Deficits don't matter. The United States, remember, the Republicans used to be the party of fiscal conservatism, and they used to call Democrats tax and spend Democrats, tax and spend, tax and spends. But they had to admit that deficits don't matter because the Republicans, when they're in office, they spend, and blow up the deficit, and they pay no attention to it. And then the moment the Democrats get into office and say, well, we're going to give out some food stamps and some Obama phones, they were like, oh, the deficit. Deficits don't matter.
Yeah.
We don't get our goods and services from money. Money does not provide us with anything. The labor of other people provide us with what we need. The labor of other people is what we provide. Is the labor there? Is the skill there? Are the natural resources there? Is the infrastructure there? Yes. And so the money that is in the system is to regulate who gets access and how much access they get. Money is made up. You know, and that's why money can go from being gold, silver, paper, to digital, to little pieces of plastic cards, to now you don't even need the damn credit card. You just hold your phone up at the register. All that's money. Money keeps evolving and changing. But our ways of calculating value, distributing the money is the same way it was when we all lived under monarchical tyrants. The money system, earning wages and all that, that's 200-300 years old. So we got space age money with dark age distribution and earning and worth and value. We got arcane, obsolete ways of valuing things with the modern money. And now, even now, you go to Whole Foods in California and here in Chicago, you can literally use your fingerprint or your handprint for money. KD, I think I'm losing you.
No, I'm here. I'm just following what you're saying. Thank you.
Right.
Do you have time for our second question?
Real quick. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just wanted to ask you about sort of a level of arrogance that some people have, maybe including myself at certain times, or maybe before, about being so sure of themselves without having looked into the research or their opposing views, or even now in this day and age, we have access to the internet, which has so much knowledge, and people are so sure of themselves about like certain topics, about homophobic things or transphobic things, or racist things, or about class or capitalism, just the arrogance of people.
Yes.
And a lot of the time, they're just going off of vibes. They haven't done any research. They just feel this way and they're just sure about it. So maybe if you could speak on that, if I'm explaining that well enough.
Can you put it in the form of a question?
What do you think about what I'm describing about people's arrogance in their knowledge and lack of due diligence?
Kwame Ture, well, there's a couple of things. Kwame Ture said American capitalism not only makes people stupid, it makes them arrogant in their stupidity. But a lot of people, it's an ego defense mechanism. And we don't have access to knowledge. We have access to information and data. But information and data is only as good as your ability to digest it. So you could have an abundant table full of food, but if your digestive system is malfunctioning, you can starve while you have abundant food available. So you have to first be able to masticate, chew the food, and you have to have the proper enzymes in your digestive tract to begin to break down the food. And then your body has to have a system of what is called peristalsis to move the food through the digestive tract. And then you need an ability to break the food down into its essential components and absorb the food into your bloodstream, and then distribute that food to your various organs and systems, and then evacuate the food. So food is only as good as your ability to consume, digest it, and then get rid of the waste material. Information works the same way. Just because you have a supercomputer in your pocket and you can Google or DuckDuckGo and look up any information you want or get any statistics or data that you want, most people's critical thinking, which is your mental digestive system, your ability to take in the information, dissect it and break it down, understand the source of the information, distinguish whether or not it is propaganda or raw data, being able to process, extract the essential components of the information, and get rid of the manipulation and propaganda and eliminate, evacuate that. So people are arrogant is because they have dysfunctional digestive systems, and they have an abundance of food, but they have no nutrients and the quality of the food, just like the quality of the information. That's why you get a lot of racists that'll come up with crime statistics or fatherless home statistics and claim that there's something inherently dysfunctional about Black people, where you can have all the data on crime or single parent household statistics you want, but you are absolutely ignorant in truly understanding the phenomenon, because you're looking at the surface and you don't have the critical thought or the intellectual honesty to really evaluate what the problem is, what the origins are, or to offer up genuine solutions to the problem. All right, KD, I got some people waiting. I appreciate you calling in. Please come back.
Thank you.
All right, peace. Coyote Blue, thank you for waiting. You got a question, comment, criticism?
Hey, Diallo, big fan. And I'm glad I was able to catch you because the timing usually doesn't work out when you're live. I've got a pretty hyper-specific question about a book recommendation that you're always making. You recommend the Iceman's Inheritance? Is that what it's called? Quite a lot?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just curious, have you ever actually looked at any of that author's follow-up work? I haven't read any of his works, but as I understand it, his next book that sort of builds off of the Iceman's Inheritance.
Conspiracy?
Yeah, okay, so you are aware of it. I'm wondering how you sort of square that circle. If you think that the existence of the second book compromises the premise of the first book, and if you feel, or I haven't read the book, but I have a certain idea in my head that it feels to me like it validates a certain environmental determinist perspective that has previously been used, and I would argue was constructed in the first place to justify all of the things that Europeans did throughout their history of going out in the world, colonizing, extracting people, resources, land, etc. So I was just wondering how you relate those two things.
I didn't get that from the book number one. I think I got that from Guns, Germs, and Steel.
Mm-hmm.
When I read that book, I was just utterly outraged through the whole reading of it. I don't even know why I finished it, but I was compelled to. But I didn't get that from the Columbus conspiracy. And one thing you have to understand, he's talking about an individual in a particular historical epoch, whereas the Iceman's Inheritance is talking about an entire race over their entire history, whereas he's talking about specific isolated time. But I don't.
Okay. I'm not sure if we are thinking about the same follow-up book, actually. Could you just, as I said, I haven't read any of the author's work. Could you just fill me in on the premise of the Columbus conspiracy real quick?
Well, the Columbus conspiracy doesn't really talks about the machinations, the goals. He touches on the motivations and the drives, but it's really about he talks specifically about the atrocities and the conditions created and what was extracted by the West, and how the West established itself as a global hegemon through access to the resources. Okay,
just a point of clarification. I don't think we are actually thinking about the same of his follow-up books. The one that I was thinking of, basically, at least as I understand it, again, as I said, I haven't read any of the author's books, but as I understand it, he had a follow-up book to The Iceman's Inheritance that builds off of the sort of, you say you didn't get the environmental determinist vibe from Iceman's.
Oops, sorry, didn't mean to do that.
Oh, sorry. It's at least as I understand it, it builds off of that premise to draw the conclusion that the ultimate expression of this adaptive pathology that European people have is actually Jewish people. So it kind of boils down to an anti-Semitic argument by way of like a bait and switch.
Okay.
Or at least that's what it looks like from the outside to someone who hasn't read.
I think what you're calling environmental determinism is not environmental determinism. Like the argument made by the book Guns, Germs, and Steels. He did say that what created the psychopathic racial personality was the Arctic development of Europeans, or what he called the Kronos complex. So he did say that Europeans, because of their unique evolution within the Arctic regions, as opposed to other people like the Inuit, aka Eskimo people, and other people in Arctic regions, actually evolved and developed their culture and identity within the tropical regions, and then migrated later and brought established culture into the Arctic, whereas Europeans developed their culture and were probably the only race who developed their culture, or their what Marimba Ani called the Asili, within the Arctic. So that their evolution is not just evident in their lack of skin pigmentation, but it also had a psychological effect, and they had to frame their culture or develop their culture in an environment that was hostile and scarce. And that hostile scarcity, and where I talk about Europeans, when they go across the world, they terraform. So the Europeans would go into places that had ecological abundance and create artificial scarcity because they didn't know how to function, share, and cooperate. Like communism was a revolutionary idea when it's essentially sharing and cooperating. That's all the fuck communism is. You share everything and you cooperate each other. And so they were like, they went to places and terraformed the Americas, terraformed Africa, terraformed Asia, and created artificially through military means and restrictions the very conditions that they could understand and comprehend and function in the Arctic North. So, but that's not, from my understanding, what environmental determinism has come to be identified as. But that's what is called the germ seed of culture, or what Dr. Marimba Ani calls the Asili, which is impacted and co-develops with the ecosystem one developed in, but is not necessarily environmental determinism, as where he said the tropical cultures didn't have the drive or motivation to create technologies, where the colder, more scarce reasons are what drive innovation in technology, where archaeology has determined civilization and development of various technologies are not unique to Europeans. Where Europeans,
okay, like I understand and largely agree with a lot of that, although I am failing to see the distinction between, say, your Jared Diamond's premise, where he views that determinism working out beneficially in one direction, versus Michael Bradley's premise, where he views it working out disadvantageously in that context. But it still seems like both are placing the emphasis on the environmental factors in which the cultures grew. But I'd like to just kind of bring it back around to where I started with the follow-up book. I found the title of the follow-up book that I was thinking of. It's called The Chosen People of the Caucasus. And what I understand is that he took the premise from the Iceman's Inheritance, and then he arrived at the conclusion that the ultimate expression of this adapted pathology was to be found in what would, I guess, be called the Ashkenazi Jews. So it seems like he rolled that book into like a bit of anti-Semitic propaganda, and it seems like some of those concepts may be present. Pardon me?
Can you define anti-Semitism for me?
That's a difficult one in this day and age. What I would call anti-Semitism.
Something you can't define. Because if I call
Pardon
you
me?
a racist, I can tell you what the blood clot of racist is right off cap. My children could define racist and racism at 3 years old.
Well, how I would personally define anti-Semitism is how I understood it to have functioned historically, which is as a sort of like a scapegoating mechanism that developed within European societies to to offset the excesses of their ruling classes. Like it seems pretty self-evidently and straightforward to me. I don't think that there's I don't think there's like a there to it. Like it's not something that I take seriously as like an intellectual construct, but
I think that anti-Semitism, they try to keep it ill-defined in order to level it against any criticism, especially coming at Zionists or white Jews who engage in racism, imperialism, and the other behaviors that are also common amongst white Christians.
I definitely agree with that, and I think we're seeing plenty of evidence of that, like literally right now.
I haven't read The Chosen People of the Caucasus, but I get leery because I've read 2 of his books, more than one, and I've actually have a few of his interviews and lectures on tape, and I haven't heard any anti-Semitism coming from there.
Okay.
It seems that anyone that wants to talk about the Ashkenazim, about the Zionist Theodor Herzl and the Zionist project, gets labeled anti-Semitic. Now, I oppose anti-Semitism. I'm quite aware of the history of anti-Semitism, and I see a lot of people unjustly labeling, and I think it hurts the cause of those who seek to identify and oppose anti-Semitism to so just toss it out there in defense of the indefensible, especially.
Yeah. Well, if you ever do get a chance to read that book, I would, as I said, I'd love to hear your thoughts on kind of how you square that circle, or if there's nothing particularly objectionable to be found in the book. I'm just interested in how you, because as I understand it, that book, it kind of follows directly from the premise as laid out in Iceman's Inheritance, and then it applies that that reasoning to European Jewry, I guess, because I don't think his Iceman thesis would apply to like Arab Jews or something, right? Or maybe it would. I don't know what kind of range geographical range he's working in, but
right. Yeah, I think white folks simply changing their religion or the sect of religion. I haven't seen it change. An Irish Catholic or a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant or a European Jew or Eastern Orthodox Slavic individual, even though all white folks have, I gave this talk called The Myth of White Unity, and all these issues white people have amongst themselves, they seem to not preclude them from engaging in hegemonic and racist, xenophobic, anti-African specifically, but anti-everybody else type behaviors. And
I think that's something similar to like how the right wing operates. Like they don't have to be on the same page as long as there's a convergence of interests at the moment, right?
Yes.
Okay. That was all that I wanted to ask. And if you ever do get around to reading that book,
quote from the book, because I haven't read it.
I can read you. I've got the Google Books page open. I can read you the blurb that it gives.
I still got people waiting on the line, so we're not going to do that.
All right.
What I will tell you is,
I can share you the Google Books link in the chat for you to check out on your own time if that works.
Can you email it to me? I don't know if I'll be able to get it from the chat.
The chat here.
Oh, he's gone. I didn't do that. I just lost him. I don't know what happened. Maybe his overlords thought he didn't. But anyway, I didn't know. I don't know. I would definitely, if Michael Bradley is a what do you call it? If he's an anti-Semite, then I definitely don't seek to provide cover for him. I'll call him out on it and I will say it. But I would have to see it. Just like this guy, like Derek Jensen. I recommend his book, but I think he's become a right winger. I think he's become a reactionary. He had some good insights, but he's fallen off greatly. And so I talk about, I know humans are fallible. And if I got on here to spewing some right wing, anti-Semitic, homophobic, nationalist, if I got on here bugging out, then, that doesn't make everything I said prior to losing my goddamn mind wrong. It's just what I said at that time and even going forward is wrong. So, and say, Roman, thank you for being patient. Question, comment, criticism.
Hey, Diallo, how you doing today?
I'm well.
That's good. So I have a sort of a two-part question, but it's just going to be one question. How do we not cure, but how do we curb menticide? I know, especially, and I want to ask specifically because of this talk, how do we curb menticide for the working class, let's just say? How do we get people who are working, just for me to example, and get, say, other Black people in the working place to think differently or more critically? Because, say, I have this dude who I work with who's just let's just say he's a top Negro in the workplace, and it's just everything he says is some Kanye level shit. And it really is gross when he says all this, and there's a lot of just white people around. White people, brown people. It just makes to me, I just can't not say something. And I always try to talk him down out of it. But it's just so gross because he'll say shit like Hitler was a genius and blah, blah, blah. The founding fathers were geniuses.
Where you work were people able to say shit like that?
Target.
Call
don't go to Target. Diallo, don't go to Target.
HR, you got a lawsuit, man. If I were you, I'd be having all kind of mental
Diallo, you don't understand.
You can get a paid vacation. I was at work and somebody was like, Hitler was. I'd fall out. Just wear your grandma's pearl to work. And
you don't understand.
Clutch those pearls and collapse.
Diallo.
And go straight to HR.
He plays Tom McDonald.
Emotional and psychological trauma.
He plays Tom McDonald, Ben Shapiro rap for everyone to hear.
Well, like I said, if he's saying shit that's
but yeah, but basically, how do we get people to not think like that and say that publicly?
Beat him. Huh?
I threatened to tell HR just as a joke.
Don't threaten.
No, it was a joke. I was like, bro, turn off. He literally plays Ben Shapiro, Tom McDonald rap.
Body cam. If you don't get paid, you can be, tell them you want shares, you want stock options. You have been traumatized. If somebody in their official capacity at Target.
No, he's like, he's not really, but he acts like he is. Like he answers to a.
If he's bugging out like that, man, forget about justice and righteousness.
We work on like an assembly line, and he tells us what to do on the assembly.
I know I've been talking about you need to become. You listen. If you're working at Target and somebody in a managerial position is saying Hitler was a genius,
okay,
you should be a person I'm on here ranting against. Brother Roman, with a millionaire, multi-millionaire, we don't trust him no more. He's out to struggle. Come on now. But here, you asked me how to cure menticide. The only cure for menticide on a massive scale is for Black people to take over all of the resources and institutions necessary for our survival. The only way someone can subject a people massively to menticide is that they have control over the resources and institutions that necessary for a people's survival. And so that's what. So essentially, revolution, retake territory, retake space, retake control. I just lost him too. Menticide is a state of being anti-academic, ahistorical, and apolitical. So we have to increase, anti-analytical, ahistorical, and anti-academic. So if we reinvigorate our intellectual components of our culture, and begin to utilize that for liberatory Pan-African revolution, and take control of the resources and institutions necessary for our survival, we will start to see a decline and eventual elimination of menticide against African people across the globe. It's a multi-generational task, so we better get busy.
All right. Well, I just caught the last half of that because this person was calling me.
I'm on tape.
So yeah, I'll rewind that. I'll play back and rewound that.
Put it rewind to that soundtrack. All right, I appreciate you, Roman. Sadie, you had another question.
No, that was it, Diallo. You have a great day, and thank you for doing these shows as always.
All right, peace. All right, this is our last one. It's Q from the QAnon conspiracy. You got a Q drop for us, Q? Huh? Ivermectin?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, adrenochrome?
Yeah, hold on. I think I'm gonna cut this off. Hold on.
All right.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, is this Q from QAnon?
QAnon? I don't know what that is.
Ivermectin?
Nah,
Adrenochrome? Pizzagate?
it might be a different Q.
Damn, I thought you were the Q. All right, other
Texas
Q.
Q.
What's up, bro?
Spinner's Q.
Okay.
Just kind of piggyback off what Roman said, and what you just finished saying about pretty much the people controlling the music productions. That immediately made me think of the different situations in Africa or the different I guess control in Africa and the different control here in America, as far as like you do have black faces, and I'm referring to Africa. You do have black faces that do have control of these institutions, but you could probably speak more to this than I can. But usually the sentiment is that it's still exploitation, and it made me think, even if there was class suicide on the part of the black elite, do you still think I guess the ideology would still be there to I guess, what's the word I want to use? I guess to cushion the fall, or however you want to put it.
Well, first of all, Africa is still colonized. It's a neo-colony. So a black president, black prime minister, black moguls, black mega church pastors, a black person becoming a imam or a minister or priest in a Arab or European church is not black people taking control, and it is not a black institution.
Okay.
That doesn't make it. So you can't say, well, we did take control and menticide is still there. No. In order for Africa to be truly decolonized, the colonial borders have to be erased. The colonial government infrastructure and the colonial government protocols need to be eliminated. The colonial theology, religions have to be obliterated, and the colonial economics have to be obliterated. So simply putting black people in spaces where white people once occupied is not a victory. Can you imagine if Europeans came here and as Native Americans simply inserted themselves on Native Americans Elders Council and they begin to engage in the buffalo economy and the nomadic lifestyle of the Plains Indians? They simply integrated and elevated within the systems and institutions established by the First Nations peoples here. This would be a very different country.
Right.
Europeans do not come and take over people's systems. They come and obliterate their systems and then impose their own. So if you are trying to fight European colonization and oppression, you cannot simply take over their systems. You have to obliterate their systems and establish your own. So simply saying, well, black people did take control. What did they take control over? They're placeholders.
Because it makes me think of, I'm currently reading the pre-colonial Black Africa, and how it was talking about after they vanquished the kings, how the aristocracy was left, and how the government situation had changed, but the social conditions were still the same. And then, of course, after money was invented, and I think they refer to them as plebs, the plebs started getting money. They basically just replicated the same thing they just came out of. So that makes me think about our situation, as far as like, if there, I wouldn't even say massive class suicide, but just class suicide. And if we're running the chance of that just replicating the same thing, which it seems like you just described, that even though it's black faces, it's still would you say it's still neo-colonized pretty much?
Yeah, it's neo-colonialism.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that you would need our people to commit class. Many of the Negro elite, the black bourgeoisie, would have to commit class suicide if they want to be allies and assets in our liberation struggle. Right now, there are obstacles.
Do you think? Because I don't think we obviously we haven't seen enough of it here. But as far as, because I think I asked you this question before about leadership and hierarchy, and you said leadership is fine as long as it's not necessarily like dictating lives of the people. And when I think of, like, let's say LeBron wanted to commit class suicide, do you think? Well, I guess I can't speak necessarily for the people, but I guess hypothetically, in my mind, I would think they would promote him to the leader just off his status alone, whether he was making the same amount as the people or not. I think he just gets that off top. Do you think that would be an issue, or has it been an issue before historically?
Of like prominent black people taking leadership?
Or it doesn't even have to be black people. Just I guess just, well, in this case, it would be better if there was a reference in Black history, but just a case of that happening and it actually being functional. I'm not even concerned about how long, but just there being an example of it being functional, or it being dysfunctional, and we can point at that and being like, okay, we know not to do this, you know?
I'm not clear on what you're saying. I'm sorry, on the question.
I'm asking, like, if a black celebrity, black elite, whatever, was to commit the class suicide, do you think they would get the leadership just still based off their status?
No, I don't think that makes you worthy of leadership. You get your ass to the back of the line if you rejoin the community. You know, so no, I don't think, and I think that's a problem that we also have. That somebody gives out some turkeys, or gives out some scholarships, and we want to put them to leadership. No, if you commit class suicide, you don't just give up your material wealth, you also give up your position in the hierarchy or the status quo. So I think leadership should be defined by the agenda, the priority, and the resources, and who's best to delegate and guide us in that. So the leader is again interchangeable placeholder, I think.
Yeah, I believe you said before that if I think you were recalling a situation you were in where you joined a group and there was a person that was in leadership for 25 years. You said if that was Bill Clinton, we would call him a dictator.
Yeah, the leadership for life is problematic, and it is a something that has plagued our community for decades. I think that and it also shows to the weakness of whatever agendas or ideologies or programs that we've established, that we are too dependent on a person. As Dr. Clark said, bury the man, continue the plan. I don't think any individual, regardless of what role they play, especially as a leader, should be more important than the larger agenda that they're supposed to be leading. And many times we think we should only follow agendas and programs and employed strategies and tactics. We should never follow a person.
Right.
I say that the position of leader in the Black community should be the hardest job to get and the easiest job to lose. But it's vice versa. It's the easiest job to get and the hardest job to lose.
Because it's constant. It's constant questioning. It's constant.
We don't question our leaders. Once you get to a certain status, you can't be questioned. We only question the people who question the leaders.
Are you being sarcastic, or are you being?
Huh? No, I don't think so.
No, I'm genuinely asking because I get on one side that could be infiltration, someone trying to break up a good thing, but at the same time, I'm thinking, well, shouldn't the leader be open to questioning, just to make sure that
they not should only be open to questioning, but they should be vulnerable to those they lead.
Right. It has to be a constant check-in, like.
Yes, there should be constant evaluations.
Right.
There should be, I mean, if you're in an organization where you're not allowed to ask questions,
It's
you
bad
know.
news.
So yeah, I think leader, again, it's a Western. We think we have leaders, but we really have demagogues.
Mm.
They're not leaders.
I remember Malcolm X was getting hit with that all the time.
Hit with what?
Him being called a demagogue by the media.
No, white folks call him a demagogue.
Yeah, white folks, of course, white folks.
Yeah, well, white folks. Listen, Bobby Wright said, you know, if white folks against you, then you know you going the right way. So, and we ain't worried about what white folks say. I'm saying who he truly was, not who they tried to tell us he was.
Okay, so.
But Malcolm X was a prominent member of a apocalyptic cult. So I definitely would not join Malcolm when he was a minister in the Nation of Islam, but I would have been an enthusiastic member of the Organization of Afro-American Unity.
So with that said, since you said our leadership is kind of the prerequisite came from like European thought or a European interpretation of it. Have we really seen like true leadership then?
Yes, we have. We've had an abundance of competent, functional, and valuable leaders throughout our struggles here in the U.S. Yes, we have.
Okay. Because I guess I'm comparing it to now where we're in the social media era, and it's like whatever gets the views, whatever gets the clicks,
that's something different. Those aren't influencers. They're not really leading. Before you can establish leaders, you need an agenda. You need priorities. Right. There should be an ideology. So a lot of these people are just prominent blacks, or what the late Ford called leading blacks. A leading black is different than a leader. A prominent black is different than a leader. And I know we tend to get those confused, like Dave Chappelle. Many people for a time was saying Dave Chappelle's a leader or Dave Chappelle should be a leader. And then Dave Chappelle, with his coon ass, came out and said, I don't want to be a leader. And Dave Chappelle literally had to tell black folks, stop trying to put me in a leadership position. I don't want to be Malcolm X. I don't want to be Martin Luther King. For these, you know,
they died broke.
Jokes and jokes. Yeah, he said they died broke, but I can name more comedians who died broke, who died early, and died addicted to drugs.
Right.
So if he really thought he didn't want to go on a career path that had a history of somebody dying broke. I remember Red Fox, and I have much respect and admiration for Red Fox and his contributions to our people's struggle.
Right.
That isn't really known in his relationship with Malcolm X. But they ran in and took everything but his dogs. They took his house, they took his cars, they seized his bank accounts. Red Fox died broke.
Why?
Like I said,
I might be getting sidetracked, but why?
But die early. So it's got nothing to do with them dying broke. That was just a lie he told to cover.
Right.
But he didn't, because he has no solidarity for or no connection with the black community. He'd rather hang out with Joe Rogan and Elon Musk than deal with black folk. So it wasn't that they died broke, because he wouldn't be a comedian if he was scared of dying broke.
I mean, Malcolm X kind of, spoke to us so long ago, but even then, it still kind of just feels disheartening to watch certain people that you might have grown up watching, or whatever, and then you start to see what they really think, and it's like, man, I wouldn't have expected for it to turn out that way. And it's a blessing and a curse, because I feel like that makes you want to organize with people. I feel like that makes you look more inward to what's around you. So,
which is the only place we should look. All we need is us. All we got is us. So, people falling for the okie doke, that's on them.
Right.
But anyway, I got to wrap up here. I appreciate you, Q. I'm
yes, sir. Always.
Got the Q from QAnon. We could have had a good wrap up for the show.
We need you out here in Texas, man. I think a lot of people.
Hey, man, if we can get these, share the GoFundMe, share the Eventbrite. If we can get the resources up, and this is something that people want, we would definitely hit up Texas. I've never set a foot in Texas.
I think Texas would really appreciate
the neo-fascist state of Texas. But if I'm there, can y'all hold off on your on breaking off from the union till I get out of there? Just
I'll try and put a word in. I'll try and
Texas
make some phone
sovereignty
calls.
movement. Can they take that weekend off? Because I don't want to be behind those lines.
I think you should be all right. I think your voice and Black Power Media in general, I think it'll be greatly appreciated out here. So
I
I'm gonna
appreciate
say I thank you for everything that y'all do.
I appreciate you reaching out, bro, and I appreciate you tuning in.
Yes, sir. All right.
All right, y'all. That's the BroDiallo broadcast. We got through another successful broadcast. There's a whole bunch of shit I didn't get to that I'm going to get to Wednesday. I apologize. So we're going to pick this up, and we're going to have a Rational Radical show with Skip Coon and BroDiallo. Tomorrow we're having a special fundraising broadcast because, you know, our money's looking funny. So we're going to have a special fundraising show, and we're going to, the Earn Your Liberation crew, we're going to do some pop-up shows to help boost our contributions, donations, support, so we can do this successful live show. So be on the lookout for that on Earn Your Liberation, and like, share, subscribe, contribute, support, and all that good stuff, man. You know, share the BroDiallo broadcast with your friends, enemies, allies, lovers, and haters. And I will see y'all next Monday with another broadcast of the BroDiallo show. Peace.